Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem to get on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Beis, the second line from the top. The Gemara until now has been discussing Tumas Mashkin, and the assumption has been that since the Tumas Mashkin is Dirabonon, then in the Beis HaMikdash, in the Beis Mitbachaya, where they shecht the animals, there the Mashkin, they were not goizer that Tuma. Says Rav Papa now, a different way of explaining altogether. Rav Papa afil leman domer tumas mashkin di araisa. Mashkin beis mitbachai hilchas agamirila. He says even the ones who say that indeed the mashkin is tamei mid di araisa, still in the beis mitbachaya, it's not nitmeis, it's not tamei. And here we have a chiddush that Rav Papa is saying, because until now, like we said, it had to be midirabonim because the Chacham would not be able to then uproot the Tuma di Araisa in the Beis HaMikdash. If it's Tamei midi Araisa, then it would be also Nitmes, it would be Tamei in the Beis HaMikdash. Elamai, we explained that it's only Tamei midirabonim, they were not goyzer in the Beis HaMikdash. Comes along Rav Papa and he argues and says, no, really, even if it was Tamei midi Araisa, but we have Halacha L'Moshe Misinai, teaching us that in the Beis HaMikdash it is not nitmes, it's not tamei. Omar le Rav Huna bereid Rav Nosim bar Papa le Rav Papa. Rav Huna bereid Rav Nosim comes and challenges the statement that Rav Papa just made. Ve'lohod Omar Rabbi Elazar. Behold, Rabbi Elazar had stated in the brayso that we learned of Tes Zayin Amud Aleph, Ein Tuma Lemashkin Kol Iker. He says there's not Tuma Lemashkin whatsoever at all. Teida wants to bring a proof to say that it's not going to be Tamei Midiraisa. Because Teida, Sharei, Heid Yosef ben Yoezer Ish Tzreido, Al Mashke Beis Mitbachaya Dochan. He brings a proof that from Reb Yosef Ish Tzreido, Ben Yoezer Ish Tzreido, that the mashkin in the Beis Mitbachaya is Dochan, is pure. Dahainu, in the Beis HaMikdash, it doesn't come Tamei. Now, how can he bring a proof if it's Halacha L'Moshe Misinai? Says the Gemara. V'hilchas Gemeiri law, and if it's indeed Halacha L'Moshe Misinai, that even though it's Midiraisa Tamei, but in the Beis Mitbachaya, it's not going to be Tamei. Migamrina Mina, how can he have learned, how can he have proven that Ein Tuma Lemashkin Kol Iker from the fact that in the Beis HaMikdash it's not Tamei, if that's Halacha L'Moshe Misinai? He wants to prove that Midi Arais it's not Tamei. How can he bring a proof that in general it's not Tamei, but we see over here in the Beis HaMikdash, Halacha L'Moshe Misinai, they lifted up, the Torah had said that it's not Tamei. How can you prove that? Omar le Ravina le Ravashi. Ravina Ravashi asks another question on the sheet of Rav Papa. Rabbi Shimon, Domar Tumas Mashkin di Araisa, that which Rav Shimon says, that Tumas Mashkin is di Araisa, the Tanya, for we again learned in that brayso and Daf Tes Zayin Amud Aleph, the Tanya, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, Oimim, Lekeilin Tohirin, Lo'eichlin Tmein. There, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon state that when it comes to a Mashkin that is Safek, whether it has become Tamei or not, we're not sure, it's a doubt. And that mashkin, in regards to the fact that it comes in contact with kelim, we say it's taharim. But when it comes in contact with oichel, it's going to be tmeim. Why? Why is the kelim going to be tamei? Going to be tahor? Because it's only a suffix deran that it's metamei. But when it comes in contact, the suffix mashke with the oichel, we say that midi araisa, it is metamei. And therefore we go l'chumra and say that the oichel also has a din of being tmeim. V'hocha, and over here come Rabbi Shimon, bekelin tmeim bekarka taharin. So because of this, that he holds, Rabbi Shimon, that midi araisa, the mashkin is tmeim, and therefore they're metame midi araisa, and therefore safek the araisa l'chumra. So therefore he makes a statement over here and says that when kelim hold the mashkin that are tmeim in the Beis Mitbachaya, they're tmeim. Whereas that which is in the karka would be taharin. V'i hilchasa, and if indeed that it's true Rav Papa that we learn halacha l'moshe Sinai that in Beis Mitbachaya it's not tamei. Mali bekelim, mali bekarka. Why should only bekarka be taharim? Even in kelim, the mashkin should also be taharim, because after all, halacha mashmis Sinai in beis mitbachaya, they are not tmein. Says the Gemara, kasha. Indeed, this is difficult. These statements against Rav Papa's shita. Rav Papa. Now Rav Papa comes and explains that which we brought in the top of the Amud as well. That Rabbi Shimon makes this distinction between, in the Beis HaMitbachaya, Kalim, when you have mashkin that are in Kalim, they're Tmein, but the mashkin that are in the Karka are Taharin. Explains Rav Papa this distinction. Rav Papa, Hada Amris Bekarka Taharin, that which we stated, that Rabbi Shimon stated, that in the Karka, those mashkin are Taharin in the Beis HaMitbachaya, Lo Shanu Ela Mayim. We're talking about when it's Mayim. Since it's mayim, therefore the mayim themselves then are considered to be like a mikvah. They have the din midiaraisa as a mikvah, and therefore even if they're not going to be a full arboim saw, they're considered to be a mikvah, and mikvah water does not become tamei. Says Rabbi Papa to explain. That's when it comes to mayim. Then we are saying that in the karka the taharin, if they're gathered in the ground. Aval dam loy, but dam is not going to be taharim if it's in the karka. That will be tmein. Umayim nami loy amron ela dahave revis. The chazi lahat bilbe mechotin utzinoros. When it comes to the water, has to be at least a size, an amount that is gathered of a revis. Then midi araisa, they're considered to be a mikvah for small kalim, like needles. Aval loy have a revis tmein. But if they're not a revis, even midi araisa, they're going to be tmein. So here Rav Papa qualifies and explains the sheet of Rabbi Shimon. Once again, Rabbi Shimon says a distinction. He says in the Beis Mitbachaya, those mashkin, if he says they are tamei in a kalim, they remain tmein, they're nitmein. But if they're in the karka, they're gathered in the karka, then they are taharin. To which Rav Papa explains that which it says in the karka they are taharin is talking about specifically those mayim that are at least a revis. But dam certainly is going to be tmein. Omar Mar, says the Gemara, bringing back the statement that we had before, again referring to the Brisa on Daf Tezayin Amud Aleph. There's a case where we have mashkin that is a safek mashkin. Is it tamei? Is it not tamei? So the shita of Rabbi Yehuda, which the Gemara now is going to bring, Rabbi Yehuda, his shita is that those mashkin that have a safek, when they are come in contact with either oichel or kalim, it doesn't make a difference which one, they're also going to be metame misafek. And therefore, if we don't know if these mashkin are tamei or not, so long as they have then touched, where they touched the kalim or the oichel, so since it's, according to Rabbi Yehuda, midi araisa metame, therefore we'll say misafek will go lechumra, kol safek midi araisa lechumra. So it means the Gemara. Omar Mar, bring that this thing. Rabbi Yehuda oimer, lekol tamei. In everything it'll be tamei, even though it's a safek. Because again, he holds that it's midi araisa, that it's metame. Ask the Gemara, the member of the Rabbi Meir Sovar, the Sovar Rabbi Meir, mutumas mashkin letame, kalim de araisa, letame kalim de araisa. Does that mean to say that Rabbi Yehuda says that tumas mashkin is going to be metame, those kalim midi araisa? Ask the Gemara. But it says in the Mishnah the following: Kol kalim sheish lahen achorayim v'soich. Here it's talking about when it comes to kalim that have a base kibul, that you can take the keli and you can actually turn it around by taking it inside out. So here we'll say that when it can be done in such a way, there's an opinion like this: Kigon ha-karim v'ha-ksosif v'ha-sakim v'ha-martzufin. Here we're talking about different kalim that can be flipped inside out. For example, like a pillowcase. If you have a pillowcase, a pillow where its inside is stuffed with, let's say, feathers, that can be turned around as well. Or ksosos, which is cushions, v'hasakin, or a sack, v'hamartzufin, or a leather type of bag. All of these things can be turned inside out. So the Tanakama says, nitma toichoy nitma gaboy. If it became tamei in the inside, then it'll also metame the outside. However, nitma gaboy lo nitma toichoy. If it only becomes in contact with something that's tamei on the outside, only the outside becomes nitmes, but the inside is not tamei. Omer Rabbi Yehuda says, when are we talking about? Shenitmu machmas mashkin, when it was nitma from mashkin. Then we say this din, that it was nitmes machmas mashkin, and it goes inside the inside, then it's tamei the entire kli. On the gav, it's only tamei on the gav and not in the inside. Aval nitmu machmas sheretz, nitma toichoy, nitma gaboy, nitma toichoy. But if it was nitmes, came in contact with the sheretz, which is the araisa, then whether it then comes into the middle of this kli or the back, the outside of the kli, the entire kli is tamei mid araisa. So you see that Rabbi Yehuda makes a distinction between mashkin and sheretz. Mashkin is only derabonon. V'sakedaited tumas mashkin the tamei kelim deraisa. If you want to say that it is indeed mashkin is deraisa according to Rabbi Yehuda, then mali nitme machmas mashkin, mali nitma machmas sheretz. Why does he make the distinction? By saying mashkin is only going to metame the entire kli if it comes in contact with the toichoy, with the inside. Whereas if it comes in contact with the outside, it's only metame the outside, but not the inside. There it's mashma, therefore it's only midirabonim. Whereas the sheretz, there, even if it touches only the outside, it's metame the entire kli because it's deraisa. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Chazar boy Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda was chayzer by what he originally said. And therefore, what he originally said, that the mashkin is metame de'araisa, he's chayzer by and says that indeed it's only midirabonon. Ravina Omar, Ravina has a different mahalich to explain what seems to be an apparent contradiction between Rabbi Yehuda. Does he mean to say that mashkin is de'araisa? Or from here, it seems to imply that it's only derabonon. So he says, Rabbi Yehuda Omar, Ravina Omar, Lo'olam lo'i hodar, he was not chayzer. How do we explain this? Mashkin haboy machmas yodayim. Mashkin haboy machmas sheretz. Mashkin that comes from sheretz, then it's tamei de'araisa. But this mashkin in this Mishnah or brisa that we just quoted now, when it says that it came in contact with the gav and it's only metame the gav and not the toich, that's because it's mashkin that came in contact with the yodayim. Dahainu yodayim midirabonon was nigzar to be shnim, to be a second level of tumah, and when it comes in contact with mashkin, Ravina holds that it's a rishon. Ihochi asked the Gemara on this explanation of Ravina, adetani bamedvar mamurim. Instead of teaching bamedvar mamurim shenitmu machmas mashkin and making distinction between mashkin and sheretz, liflug v'lisnim b'didei. You should make a distinction within the mashkin itself. Bamedvar mamurim b'mashkin abo machmas yadayim. Ava mashkin habo machmas sheretz nimsa toicho nitma gaboy nitma gabo nitma toicho. You should make the distinction within the mashkin that is haboy machmas sheretz, within the mashkin itself, saying mashkin habo machmas yadayim. That itself, if it only touched the toich, the gav, will only metame the gav and not the toich. But mashkin that's metame through a sheretz, if it touches the gav, will also metame the entire thing, including the toich. Why didn't then this statement of Rabbi Yehuda make a distinction within mashkin itself if he's coming to make that distinction, if that's the distinction between the two types of mashkin that Ravina wants to say? Ella says the Gemara, mechavarto kedashaninon miikara. Rather, it's clear, rather like the first explanation that we want to explain between what seems to be an apparent steer between Rabbi Yehuda. Chozer Rabbi Yehuda, that the way to explain it is that Rabbi Yehuda was chozer, by now coming back to saying that mashkin is indeed only dirabonon, and therefore, like he says over here, when the mashkin touches the gav of the kli, therefore it's only metame the gav and not the toich, because mashkin is only midirabonon.